Yeah.
Welcome to Culturally Damaged. This is Chris and Dan coming live to you from the studios of South Clearwater. We are still yet to get naming rights purchased, and we are still wondering when that check's going to come in.
Yeah, I've had lots of checks come in. Well, not lots.
Wait, what?
Not lots, but nothing for naming rights so far. So.
Well, if you buy the naming rights to this, and when you're gonna, it's an investment. You know, it's only a couple of $1,000s that you'll need to give us, and or give Dan really because he put the money into it. And then we're gonna say your name over and over and over, and then our base is gonna expand to 1 million people soon. Mm-hmm. After last week's heated debate over gun control or gun violence prevention, whatever you want to call it. I think we actually got a few more listeners on board.
Yeah, we even had like 50 comments.
We did, but mostly from the same person. But that's okay. And for the record, I did not spam her comment. That whatever happened was flukish. That would have been a weird comment for me to spam anyway. I think the word was exactly.
Correct.
So she was probably agreeing with me on something there anyway. So.
No, I don't think she's ever agreed with you at all on this.
There's a lot of people that don't. But, the tides are shifting a little bit. But, hey, I promise we wouldn't beat on that today as much. If it were up to me, we'd talk a lot about the town hall that took place last night. That was very interesting. But I understand that we're gonna have to talk about some different things today. But we will get into some politics, but not before we talk a little bit about our local sports clubs.
Yeah, I mean, this, last week we had that big announcement, I think last week or a week before, big announcement that Coke was going to be sold at Tropicana. And so this week, not a whole, I think prior to this week, about the only thing that happened had been Longoria being traded. And, people had been down on that. And then, pitchers and catchers reported, and, we all thought we had a team ready to go. And then all of a sudden, the top 4 hitters from last year are no longer on the team.
So last year, we actually had some bats. It was pretty odd for the Rays to be able to put up the points that they did and the runs.
Yes.
The runs that they put up. But that seems to be a thing of the past. That's not something that they enjoyed doing. They didn't like scoring. They didn't like exciting baseball.
I think the reality is the Rays may have scored more runs in team history, but they also gave up more runs than they usually do. I think we were a deficit of around 80 runs or so for the whole year. And so when you're plus minus and you're on the minus side of the run differential, it's pretty hard to have a winning record. So
well, they definitely dipped in the area of pitching a little bit. They didn't have
the
big stars. And the defense. They didn't have some of the places around the infield and the outfield struggled a little bit. But with Longoria gone, who's going to fill that gap at third base?
The elusive Matt Duffy.
Duffy.
Yes, Mr. Duffy was brought over in the Matt Moore trade. I think it was 2016, and has yet. Well, he might have stepped foot on the field. Not sure though, but if he's played a game or two in the last year and a half, that's all. So it'll be interesting to see. He's supposedly in good health, but until he actually takes the field at third, I'm not sure it's actually going to happen. So, but I will. One thing. And I've been talking to friends and other Rays fans, and the mood around the team right now is pretty bad. So I've heard a lot of people, me included. You get to the point where you're really about to give up being a Rays fan. It's really been difficult.
It's sad because, we got some inspiring news in the last couple of weeks that we might be able to keep the team in the area by building them a new stadium over in the Tampa area. And that got a lot of people excited. And then just as soon as you could, turn around, it was dropping all these new players this week on top of Longoria. So Kiermaier is really the face of the franchise, it seems like now.
I know, and that's what there's been a discussion of who's going to bat leadoff this year. Kiermaier has done it so. He hasn't been a great leadoff hitter. He strikes out a lot, and he doesn't take as many pitches as he should. But that's the thing. He's going to be the face of the franchise, and so if he's not batting first, he probably gets slotted at 7.
Wow.
And there's not that many like players who are the face of the franchise batting 7th or 8th in the lineup.
Yeah, that's a good point. And who else could bat first on this roster?
Spahn, the left fielder that they got from in the trade with Longoria, the guy they brought over from the Giants. He is another potential.
Now, is this a guy with a good on-base percentage? I mean, is this somebody that we can count on?
He's got a couple years on him. I think the benefit what he brings is he's a much more disciplined hitter, and so he shouldn't strike out as much. He'll make more contact, put the ball in play, and that's really what you want out of a leadoff hitter. So
yeah, well, that and speed.
Yeah, and he does, and his most of his career he's played center field. So I'm not sure that he's as fast as Kiermaier is right now, but honestly, Kiermaier is not that good at stealing bases.
Yeah, not a great base runner, but just fast, open field fast.
He has the ability. It's just it's a matter of want.
Yeah,
he's got to want to make that more of his game instead of trying to worry about the stupid launch angle and trying to hit home runs. So,
well, his expectations are going to be exponentially higher this year as being the voice or the face of the franchise. And not only is he going to have to play at a much higher level, and at least in terms of batting, his fielding's always been really really good. But he's also going to have to be the guy who speaks for the team a lot, and he's going to have to be a little more articulate. I mean, it's heating up in the Bay.
Yeah, I have,
maybe a little better than that.
I have not been terribly impressed with what I've heard out of Mr. Kiermaier's mouth. Partly the biggest concern. Look, he doesn't seem like he's the brightest bulb in the batch there, but maybe that's just his speech or how he presents himself on air. But one thing, the thing that was most frustrating is that he did an interview, and it was when he was injured last year, and they were asking him, you've been on the bench for a while, you've been injured, you've been watching Malik Smith, you've been watching some of these other players that are putting the bunt down, they're stealing bases, they're doing the little things, and they said, well, do you think about incorporating that into your game?
Small ball.
And he's like, no. He's like, you know what? I'm just going to do the stuff that's gotten me here. He's not willing to grow as a player or take things. We had a discussion. If he would bat if he was a slap hitter, what can't even think of his name. Suzuki's first name.
Ichiro.
Suzuki Ichiro. And he'd at least be a 300 hitter. He'd get on base, steal the base. I mean, that's what you want. Anyway,
yeah. Well, his game's definitely going to have to change. I think that's going to come down to coaching and managing, and if they can get him to buy into that and getting a better on base percentage, because he probably was a power hitter at a lower level, and he probably thinks that he's probably more so than he is now, I guess.
No. But actually, he's hitting more home runs now,
really,
than he ever had.
Well, does he think maybe that's what he needs to continue to do?
I think that's what he thinks.
Because of the strikeouts and the pop-outs.
Because everybody else in the league is hitting home runs, and I think that he feels he should be hitting home runs too. So,
especially last year when everybody else on the team was hitting home runs.
Yes, well, that was a record year. I think it was more home runs than ever been hit outside of the steroid era. So if that makes you wonder about what is going on. But, the other thing in baseball is there is this, I mentioned the word launch angle. And so apparently this, a lot of the batters over the last 2 or 3 years have been adjusting their swings, trying to reach that optimum launch angle and get the ball up into the air and out of the park. So, we'll see. But, one of the things the Rays are really hanging their hat on this year is the what they call the depth of their starting pitching. So we have a lot of potential in our starting pitching. We don't have a lot of major league seasons under their belt with our pitching staff. But of course, as things go with the Rays, we're counting on this young pitching staff. One of our young, up and coming young pitchers is a little fella named Brent Honeywell, and we've been looking forward. A lot of fans have been looking forward. They wanted to see him last year. He was really moving up through. He's planning to make a big impact on the season this year, but he threw 10 pitches this morning in a bullpen session and had right forearm tightness.
Which is never a good sign.
No, it is never. So most people who, many times or most times that is followed up with Tommy John surgery. Tommy John surgery is at least almost a year out of baseball. So if he now is out right now, that means he starts rehabbing in about a year, which means if that's the case, he might be ready to pitch the 2019 All-Star break. So you essentially lose a player for about a year and a half.
That is bleak. So you just gotta probably go ahead and scratch him. I mean, we don't know that we're gonna get to Tommy Johns. It's just the tightness in the forearm, but it's not a good sign. No. And another list of things to add. So we lost 2 other players this week. Tell us about them.
Well, I guess it was Corey Dickerson. And
all-star Corey Dickerson.
Well, yeah, and actually, and Dickerson, he was designated for assignment, and so typically when teams designate someone for assignment, it's usually because they're not that good,
right? And
they're being sent back down to the minors to get better, and then they'll bring them back up later. The way his time works from his contract, so this was really a contractual move. I think he has more than 3 years of service, but less than 5. So if you get designated for assignment, you don't have to accept the assignment. You could say, no, I don't want to go to AAA. You lose your contract if you do that. So there's some, good and bad. Anyway, the whole thing was so that they could, don't you worry about whether we are working, Mr. Collymore. This is work.
We just had a comment from a listener telling us to get to work. But
yeah. So, but anyway, they did actually trade him. So a lot of the discussion, a lot of heat. The Rays were getting a lot of heat because they had designated him for assignment, and the idea was like, look, he was our only All-Star last year, and we've just released. Essentially, people said,
well, you just sent him down to the minors and essentially releasing him
and let him go for nothing. And so that was never the intention of the Rays, and I guess it could have possibly happened. So today they were actually able to make a trade. They got a relief pitcher in Hudson, some cash, because Hudson's going to make $5 million next year as a relief pitcher, with quite a bit. And they picked up a second base prospect from your neck of the woods. So he was playing for the West Virginia Black Bears.
Go Black Bears.
Granville. So if we have any listeners in West Virginia that may have seen him play, it'd be nice to know. But he was in what they call short A ball. So it probably 3 to 5 years before he would ever make an appearance in the major leagues.
That is wishful thinking.
Yeah. So I will say the Steven Souza deal, we did get a couple good prospects back in that, but it's unlikely that they're going to make a difference this year. So
it's going to be a long year, man, and you know that they're on top of waiting for a new stadium. At least I think we're into that phase where we're starting to wait at the Trop, and now we're going to have a team that's just going to be, but it's going to be underrated and really underdogs. But as you said earlier when we were talking, that some of the predictions have them about the same as last year in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, well, that's and that, I guess you kind of look at this and you say, all right, we look at our last year's team. What did they do? Well, they won 80 games, so they were 80 and 82, under 500, finished 3rd place. So what's the point if we just put the same team out there? A lot of those guys had career years or had very good years, and they're probably not expected to have the same production. So was the team that we had 2 weeks ago going to compete with the Yankees and the Red Sox? No. I mean, our payroll is $60 million. The payroll of those teams are both over $200 million.
That is amazing.
Yeah. So I don't know that this really changes anything. I guess it takes away any expectations. I don't think any Rays fan has any expectation of anything this year. So
I don't see how they could. Even optimist Dick Vitale even came out really upset, saying, "Hey, if you're not going to try to win, then sell the team, man. Like, what are you doing?" I'm sure there was a baby at the end, but yeah, I mean, you're talking about super Rays fans that have been around for the long haul, who are just throwing their hands up in the air, saying, what are you doing? Are you saving up for the new stadium? Are we going to take a few years off?
Well, see, that's what I would like. Look, if the Rays came out and they said, look, guys, for every $10 million that we save on payroll, we're going to put that into the stadium in 5 years. Like, then I would be okay with, like, all right, let's cut some cost.
Free Coke for everybody.
Yeah. But, and that's the thing, too. It's, we just had all this great news, like you said, about the stadium. And, like, I almost feel like I don't even care. Like, I don't feel that way. But it's almost like, if the team left, whatever, because we're only watching, we can still watch minor league baseball.
We have tons of minor league baseball. In fact, it's starting up now in just a couple of days. Tomorrow, I think there's a game.
So why pay major league prices to see minor league ball when we can spend $5 at the Clearwater Threshers?
And probably see the same amount of talent.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it's a shame. The only crowds you're going to see this year are for Yankee games and for or Sox games. When visiting teams come in that people want to see, that's the only time that we're going to have at least 7,000-8,000 people in the Trop. The rest of the time, I think we're going to be down around 5 and 6, and I think they've assured themselves. They've went ahead and locked themselves in as the worst attendance this year. I think that's probably going to be.
But like
set.
But again, like from our perspective though, like we look at they're still predicting that the Rays are going to finish with an 80 to 81 win season.
Who's making this prediction? And what is it based on?
They're based on projections of runs scored and runs allowed, and so I obviously I think that a lot of the Rays prospects here are based upon run preservation. As opposed to so preventing runs and obviously pitching and defense is going to how they're not going to score as many runs. They're going to have to find a way to reduce the number of runs that they give up.
Well, I'll leave it to the Moneyball guys for that. I really don't get it, but it just seems like when you get rid of a lot of people who are creating runs and you start trading off pitchers who were the only ones that were doing somewhat well last year, then you're going to have some problems. Cobb's also had left the team, right? Too.
Yeah, he's probably the biggest. I would say probably the biggest loss, just from a mental perspective. I think he was really good for the team from a leadership perspective, and now, unfortunately, we have Mr. Archer, who is our ace. And we talked before that he's the head case in my opinion. And look, I mean, not necessarily. He gets really excited, but he also gets really down. And I'd much rather have a guy like Cobb that pretty much shows no emotion whatsoever. He goes out there, throws the ball, gets off the mound, and
but doesn't that have a lot to do with youth? I mean, Archer is not quite as seasoned as Cobb was. Cobb's been around. Cobb's been through the injuries. He's had to see the ups and downs.
Yeah.
And it might have something to do with his personality too. Maybe.
It's a personality. I mean.
But he has time to grow. I think he does have a good head on his shoulders for the most part in terms of his attitude. But I do agree that he gets a little up and a little down at times, sort of like our friend Jameis Winston. He kind of gets a little too emotionally involved in his performance, and sometimes it hurts the team. But I think he was probably our expected ace last year, but things kind of changed throughout the season.
He's still our expected ace. That's our problem.
And he will be now.
He is our
sure.
ace. He's not an ace, but he is our ace.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, so I think that's enough on the Rays. And you brought up Mr. Winston and the Bucs. And,
I did.
They've also made our other hometown team have also made some changes this week.
Yeah, it seems like they're at least trying. The changes that they've made have been a lot more popular than the ones that the Rays have made. The first one was releasing former Pro Bowler Doug Martin,
the muscle hamster.
The muscle hamster, who has seemed to have lost his muscle. Really just didn't perform last year. There's something wrong with him. We had suspensions at the beginning of the season, at the end of the season, and this is a guy who we expected this year to be back in Pro Bowl form. He was going to redeem himself for some kind of drug charge that we weren't sure about. It was like Adderall or something is what they said.
They claim Adderall, but it's not Adderall.
Well, it's the same thing they said a few years ago with the quarterback who we had.
Your boy from Kansas State.
Yeah, Josh Freeman.
Freeman.
Yeah, Freeman, who had an Adderall problem too. I don't know why it's this rampant Adderall problem in Tampa Bay. But
nobody can get a prescription for Adderall. It's so difficult to go to your doctor and get a prescription for Adderall.
Well, apparently it does the opposite. Isn't it kind of like Ritalin?
Yeah,
make you concentrate. Because I think I've heard that for adults it does the opposite of what it does for kids. Like it's like speed.
If you have it, allegedly, if you have ADHD, it will calm you down. If you do not have ADHD, it's supposed to be a stimulant.
It's supposed to help you focus, right?
So it's a stimulant, but it also helps you focus.
You hear a lot of kids in law school taking Adderall to try to focus and concentrate when they can't keep their mind on their books.
I just did caffeine.
Same here.
Caffeine.
Same here. Lots of caffeine, way too much. It's probably stunned my growth.
As we've discussed in previous
episodes, I quit growing.
I'm not much of a reader, and so when I try to read,
you wear that like a badge of honor.
I had to do the reading in law school, and so the only way to do that was caffeine.
That had to have been painful for you.
It was quite painful
because you are not a reader. Except you always read my notes. When I bring my notes in here, you always want to read my notes.
Because you cheat and prepare way too much.
I
for the
know.
show.
I'm such a cheater in preparation.
Look, if we take the difference of notes, so here are my notes. If anyone wants to
explain
take a look
that
at the notes.
notebook too. I still don't understand how that notebook works. It's like
this is Chris's set of notes. So
mine are typed.
2 pages of notes. So,
Yes, 2 pages. Yeah, I like to be prepared. I'm like that all the time. So if you'd like to hire a lawyer that's prepared, you can always hire me. Not that Dan isn't prepared. He just prepares in a different way. Could you explain to me? You bought that notebook.
Yes.
And I don't understand how it works. I honestly want to know. Do you scan it? Does it some kind of electronic? It's not paper, right?
This is the most badass notebook and the last notebook I hope to ever buy in my life. Well, maybe not. I got a long life ahead of me, but anyway.
I don't know.
At least for the next year or two, I don't plan on buying any more notebooks. And so what this is it's actually it's got 25, 30 pages. The pages are actually a synthetic, so they're not paper. They're some sort of a
viewers
nylon.
on Facebook.
Well, I'm not sure if you can see. It is called the Everlast Rocket Book.
Free plug. Send us 10 of them, please.
Costs about $25 on Amazon.
What?
On the page here, you can see there's some icons and whatever. And what you do is you actually, each icon is at the bottom of each page. So a diamond, a bell, apple, star, whatever. You assign those icons to various tasks. So like I have a Dropbox, I have email. You can use Evernote. So what happens is you write whatever you're going to write. You mark whatever icon that you want to do. So if you want the diamond, and
do you draw the icon, or is it already on there?
The icons are already—they're very faint, so it's hard to see them. But you know the camera sees them, so you just mark it. There's an app that comes with the phone. You put the phone over the page; it automatically finds the edges, takes a picture, scans it. When you're done, you just hit the done button, and it will automatically either email it to or do whatever the task was that was assigned.
It could go into your Dropbox.
So yeah, it will automatically put it in the Dropbox for me, or it will automatically email it. So if I was, if it was your assistant or something that was doing it and needed to take notes, or you wanted to send notes to your assistant, you could easily just take a scan. It would automatically email it to your assistant, and then your assistant can go on and do whatever they needed to do.
I usually just say, Alex, make a note on this.
Yes. And sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. Anyway, we'll edit that out later. No, but anyway, so and the other thing too is that when you're done, all you do is you take a wet paper towel and wipe it all off, and you start over again. So the only special thing you need is a little erasable pen. They have them in multiple colors, Pilot Friction, and actually,
you ever use any saliva? Just wipe it off.
Yeah, a little bit.
I knew it.
That's on the pages that I have you sign stuff.
Yeah,
I usually
you hock a lug on there. Yeah.
So, but it's I've loved it. It's I no longer have to worry about where's that damn notepad that I wrote those little notes on.
Yeah.
Or something, or which notepad it was. So yeah, it's great. So
well, I didn't anticipate us talking about this, but I did bring it up because I really wanted to understand how it works. You've explained it to me before, but I was totally doing something else and I wasn't listening. But I am now.
Simona, see, oh my God, it uploads. Yep.
Does Simona have one?
I don't know, Simona. Do you have one?
Simona's my former paralegal here, who decided to leave me and go to Chicago to work. She is listening, though. We appreciate it. We miss her.
And so the person who said that we have 3 listeners now. I'm not sure if they're all listening right now.
3 million, you mean?
Yes, 3 million.
That's how we talk. That's how we talk because we don't want. It's an abbreviation because we don't want to confuse people. But all right, so we've gotten way off track. Let me reel us back in here. Doug Martin released, underperforming. So what do we do? Do we go out and do we get a new running back? I've heard Le'Veon Bell rumors. I want you to go ahead and kill that, Dan, because you are a dream killer.
Well, let's. So you play Le'Veon Bell, and you tell me why you're going to decide to sign with the Bucs.
Money, 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 money.
Is there any other reason?
No. Well, last year you could say we were up and comers, but this year you could say, well, they had a hiccup. They're making some internal changes. Well, they're adding me, so obviously they're going to be a step above everybody else. You're talking about a running back that can do everything. He makes anybody automatically better. He's good out of the backfield. He's good between the tackles. He's got such patience as a runner, like no runner probably in NFL history. He's in his prime. Yeah, he wouldn't be competing for a Super Bowl.
Defriended? I thought I was nice to Simona here. What's going on?
She unfriended you? Yeah. She unfriended you?
Speak for yourself, Dan. Defriended. What did I say?
I think she's teasing.
I don't think I would. I thought it was being nice.
Nah, she's a little testy sometimes.
We each have our supporters who protect us. It apparently.
Yes,
like here.
I know, right? Our show moms. Since my mom doesn't listen, thanks, Mom. But Le'Veon Bell, where else would he go? I mean, I guess he could go about anywhere, but
just about anywhere. Yeah.
But he's going to go here, and he players like Jameis. Other players do like Jameis, but I don't know.
So, do you think the Bucs? So, Le'Veon, do you think the Bucs are going to compete for a Super Bowl in the next 2 years?
With me, yes.
Oh, really?
Yes, with me, yes.
So
shore up that defense a little bit.
So wait. So, but how much money are you going to ask for this year?
So much that you can't fix your defense.
Yeah. So you probably want to be the most highest paid running back ever, huh?
I do, and I'm going to demand all the money from the team, and I'm going to siphon it all, and then you're going to give up 80 points a game next year. But I'm going to score 9 touchdowns a game.
Okay,
so I'm going to keep you in it.
I just want to check because
star power.
We need like 3 or 4 defensive ends.
Yeah.
So I was just checking to see how we're going to pay for those defensive ends after we sign.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we can't chase Le'Veon Bell. We go running back by committee again. We've got Peyton Barber,
and Sims,
who's going to be starter. Sims definitely is going to play. That's pretty much your 2 running backs that you're going to lean on, unless you draft somebody. But I think you can't.
How high? So how high would you draft?
It depends on who's available.
Well, what round would you say? I mean, I don't feel comfortable drafting a running back.
If the kid from Penn State's available, I mean, really, do you not get him?
No.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, you need so much help on the defensive end. And the defensive backfield. I think you got to go after, or even the offensive line. I mean, a lot of projections are showing that we're going to get the kid from Notre Dame, the offensive tackle.
Tackle?
It wouldn't be exciting.
I'm okay with tackle as long as he's
going to be weak side tackle. Yeah, and he's the best offensive lineman in the draft by far, heads and shoulders above everybody else. If he's available, you probably get him. Bradley Chubb's probably not going to be available. His
what about quarterback? What
going
those
high
is available at 7?
Nah, I think you're already invested in your quarterback.
Just checking.
I think you're invested in your quarterback. I think you got to give Jameis another year. He hasn't performed so poorly that it's cause for worry about his ability.
To eat some more W's next year, huh?
Yeah, he needs to definitely, because he was hangry all year.
Speaking, I'm hangry too. I had an apple for lunch. That's about it.
I went to I went to Chili's to get a Cobb salad. They didn't have one, so then I walk across the street to the the Thirsty Tomato. What is it called over there? The Sweet Tomato.
Sweet Tomato.
I don't know what I'm thinking. $15 it cost me for a salad, and I can't eat anything else because of my diet. So and you can't go up for seconds. So I got a salad. It was $15. What an idiot. I can't believe I just got duped for a $15 salad. I should have put way more bacon on it.
Well, that's nothing compared to the salad prices over at Nature's Food Patch. So $15 is a cheap salad. Doesn't come with any meat or anything. So
yeah, because they weigh it.
Yes.
I once went to Whole Foods and paid $23 for a salad.
Oh.
And I think that was a new record. And I asked the guy, I was like, $23 for a salad? And he was like, look at it, man. You put everything on it. And I did. It was probably not even good for me. But, hey, it's the salad life, man. I'm going to get a sticker on my car that says salad life because that's the life I live now. I eat so many salads and eggs.
No wonder you're spending so much extra time in the restroom.
Yeah.
What's going on
thanks
here?
for noticing. I appreciate that. Hey, man.
I defriended. I don't think I didn't defriend anybody. Well,
see, this week you're getting accused.
Maybe I did. I don't know. There was a lot of friction going on at that time. Well, not friction, but a lot of chaos, I would say, at that time. So I may have.
If
I'll
he did,
he'll refriend you. So
I mean, you did leave in the middle of the day. I refriended you. He refriended you. He'll refriend you. We're not mad anymore. But you had a tough situation, we understand. If you'd like to be a guest on our show and explain your side of the situation, you're welcome to arrange that with us. Maybe we can have you call in and you can tell the viewers why you left the office in the middle of the day and did not return. We could
It's
talk
all
about
forgiven,
that.
though.
It's all forgiven. You're a good worker. You did good things. I'd like to have you back. But
Got good clients.
yeah,
Referrals.
she did. She was excellent. She brought people in. She knew what she was doing. She was great to the clients when they called. So, yeah, too bad that she's up in Chi-Town now. I hope it's cold as hell because it's 86 degrees here and it's nice.
You know what? I was about to go in the pool last night at the apartment complex, but
What?
they were fixing the pool. I don't think they planned on it being pool weather in the middle of February.
That water's still got to be pretty cold.
I don't think so.
Really? I had to check my pool. Had my filter fixed yesterday.
Well, I mean, think about it. The temperature has been what, like 85 degrees the last week or
Yeah. And
So
it takes that
nighttime-
water a while to warm up, though.
two? I'm saying, look, I got some.
We had some cold nights.
I got to still get in there while I still got this extra insulation in February. You know.
Well, you're working.
Hopefully by next February I won't have as much insulation, so it'll be a little
This
colder.
summer you're going to have your beach bod, and you're going to be over at Clearwater Beach, which just named
I'm not
the best
sure.
beach in America by one of the top magazines.
Those must be people who
recently.
like crowds of people
And no parking.
and no parking. Yeah.
Yes.
So that is not my favorite beach at all.
It's not my favorite either, but we're local yokels. We don't like to go where the tourists
For those
go.
for the tourist, if you'd like a nice beach, Indian Rocks Beach is a very nice
The
place. to go.
IRB.
Yes.
You know who else likes IRB but is not going to be able to enjoy it anymore? Chris Baker.
Chris Baker, huh?
Chris Baker, defensive lineman, signed by the Bucs this past year from the Washington Redskins, coming in with high expectations.
And he was the one running his mouth too during.
Made a pretty big ass of himself during Hard Knocks.
He's probably the one who ruined our kickers. Remember him all
I
that
know,
running
he's-
his mouth at the
He's
kickers?
scared them, man. They're fragile little white guys. You
Yeah.
can't do that.
Hey, listen, there's no reason to bring race in. They're just
Well, you know,
fragile little guys. They're kickers.
Well, I
Not
guess
really
they were really
football
white
players.
guys because the
See?
first guy, Agoyo, I'm not sure what his nationality is.
Yeah.
He's like
Not Caucasian.
Hawaiian or something.
Not Caucasian, I can
don't
tell you
know.
that.
He's like Puerto Haitian or something. But he was scared to death. The next guy got scared. Yeah, I think he did. I think he spooked him.
At least that is one thing I think the Bucs do have settled as a kicker. So that is
Yeah,
one
they
of the
got
nice
this well
things.
last year, but hey, you never know. You never know.
Remember they franchised like the punter or something.
Yeah,
Like,
that guy's he's a Pro Bowler.
I understand, but you don't like you actually use your franchise.
Oh, we're the same
anyway.
team that drafts
Yeah.
a kicker in the second round, which
Yeah.
I was all for a guy, but I don't know.
It better work out.
It didn't work out. You know what though? Jason goes out and takes some chances, and then he fixes him. Like the one with Chris Baker gone. He figured that one out quick, got rid of it. Admitted he made a mistake. A guy who admitted he made a mistake. Stuck with it maybe a little too long, but you never know with kickers. It's a head game.
We just lost Simona.
So,
got to her.
but Baker gone. Baker seemed like he just wasn't even trying. There was an incident after one of the last games where he jumped off sides and gave up a first down at the end of the game, which ended up losing the game for us. And he just, in the locker room, I wasn't there, but from other player standpoint, it seemed like he really didn't care. He was kind of laughing about it. So get him the hell out of here. Get some strong defensive linemen. And what's the deal with our defensive backs? Are they going to stay, go? Is Grimes going to stick around?
That's the big thing. Whether Grimes wants to, whether the beautiful weather in Tampa Bay and a nice contract is enough, or whether he wants to win.
And no state income taxes,
And no
may
state,
I
yeah.
add.
So it's really going to be a matter of, does he want to win, or does he want money? Now, from what I've heard, his wife
Are
on
they
the
mutually
radio.
exclusive?
Well, I've heard his wife wants him to retire. However, I think that she would be very happy if he were to take a contract that paid him the most money.
I think a 1-year deal with Tampa might make him happy. They can stay put, give it one last hurrah, and then the Bucs can go out next year and draft. That'll free up our first and second round maybe for defensive and offensive linemen, and then we can keep Grimes. Try to maybe bring in another free agent for safety or the other Nickelback, your favorite band.
Well, let's just say that the Bucs' problems are probably not going to be all solved this offseason. So last season, I thought they did exceptionally well in free agency. It's like, all right, they plugged their holes. We got a good draft, and we're all set to go. And then
Do you think we should release or trade Deshaun Jackson?
trade.
What do we get out of him?
You don't really get much.
His marketability is pretty low right now.
You don't really get a whole lot in trades in football. So,
and his value is low now because he hasn't done much. Apparently, him and Jameis have been working very hard in the offseason trying to get their timing down. But hopefully they don't force it to him this year. I think Godwin's is soon to be the number 2 receiver on that team.
The shoe, I'm not sure that shoe is still here or not. Chris tried to put it on one day, and it didn't quite fit that well.
Our listeners have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, she said she's the decorator. I thought she said.
Who is she? What are you talking about?
Simona.
Oh, okay. Well, that's inside information.
She wants that. No, she's making it public information on the old Facebook.
No, I don't have access to that. I don't do Facebook.
Face Snap.
I don't do Face Snap. No, I'll check on the shoe. I know you wanted to leave your scent. So I think it's still up front.
Thankfully, she didn't pee on stuff like you usually do to leave your mark.
Well, it improved the smell when I first got here. I'll say that.
That is not true.
Hey, when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about politics. We're going to talk about Russia.
It all better be good. I'm half Russian.
You are half Russian, you commie son of a gun. But when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about Russia. We'll see what Dan thinks about it. Dan's going to
set up a new Facebook account, maybe.
Dan's going to look through my notes again before he makes any comments. But we'll talk about the Russia investigation that's going on and is unfolding before our eyes, and what's going to happen of it. And is it all just a bunch of hooey? That's what Dan thinks. Dan thinks, we'll let Dan explain.
Yeah, don't be putting words in my mouth again.
I'm actually just trying to kill time here because I'm logged out of my computer and I want to play a song. So give me just a second. Dan, do you have any good jokes to play us out?
Yes, just look in the mirror.
Too late. All right, welcome back. One of our listeners wants to know, what do you guys do on break? Well, that's for us to know. If you were still here, you'd probably know. So that's one of those things you're going to have to just imagine for yourself. Honestly, not much. We do a little arm wrestling and talk about our next segment. That is Men at Work, which is going to be playing tonight when we do 80s versus 90 trivia at Caledonia Brewing, taking place tonight. That's 80s in the first round music, 90s in the second round. People are going to dress up and wear some 80s and 90s apparel, and we're going to fight over which is better, the 80s or the 90s. What would you think is better, the 80s or the 90s?
Well, I only know about 5 years. Well, I shouldn't say. I grew up in the 80s, I suppose, but I was awful young.
That's when you lived 90s. In Russia, in Mother Russia.
No. I've always been I was a U.S. citizen.
So how long have you been in the KGB?
That's I can neither confirm or deny that I am in the KGB. It's actually the FSB.
It is the FSB now, which brings us to an interesting point, or to an interesting topic. The Russian involvement in these elections of 2016. We've had unanimous intelligence reports from all intelligence agencies. They all agree that they found a couple of things. That Russia's efforts to influence the 2016 presidential elections represent the most recent expression of Moscow's longstanding desire to undermine the U.S.-led democratic order, but these activities demonstrated a significant escalation in directness, level of activity, and scope of effort compared to previous operations. Dan's, no big deal. Our democracy is being
undermined.
Safe. I don't know. Is it? I mean...
Well, here's what. I just got an Amber Alert. What's going on here?
Uh-oh. Who's missing?
It's Lee County. The Hyundai accent. They're probably not going to get that far.
Keep on the lookout for a Hyundai accent. We just got an Amber Alert.
Yes, but so the Russians, look, if our elections can be influenced or manipulated by a few people with some fake Facebook accounts, then I think our democracy is in bigger trouble than from our own.
There is certainly more.
We have problems with our voters.
There's certainly more than that. You're simplifying what the findings were. Yes, there were hundreds of thousands of dollars spent on on social networking, and that's
so far
not,
that's the largest thing that they found so far.
That is not it. Just social media trolls, no. The ODNI, who is the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, states that Russian military intelligence services, the GRU, as you said earlier, hacked the servers of the Democratic National Committee. And the personal email accounts of Clinton campaign chairman John Podesta and forwarded their contents to WikiLeaks. This is against the law. They're trying to influence our elections and muddy the water in order to, I think, what the report said.
To sow discourse.
Was to sow discourse, exactly, in the American election system so that people lose confidence in the democracy, which is what Russia intently wants to do. They want to show that a democracy in a capitalist republic doesn't work. And that's what Putin has told his people for many years, and that's what keeps them in line, is that this is just a big joke over here. Everything is it's all rigged anyway, and he wants to show them that. And then so that if they believe that they can't have the same type of system, which they tried to have under Boris Yeltsin's rule, then they need to go back to the old times, back to the Soviet Russian days. And I think he was highly successful. Now, I don't believe that he alone made this happen, but I think our elections are so close nowadays because we're so, split up in 50-50 in our Democrat-Republican that margin in the middle is so small that such influence, can and did have a big part of the selection.
I don't know if we can say did, but it can. It could have.
Well, we'll
yes.
never really know. I mean, we can't say, hey, why'd you vote for Trump? Well, it was because I saw this one particular Facebook post, and it turns out that was Russian influenced. So, they shouldn't be.
And even a lot of what
playing in our elections.
Some of the stuff that they did was creating Facebook groups and getting people out to rallies and stuff like that. It's not like they have these. And I'm sure some of the rumors that were out there, or some of these fake news stories, did come from these people. But, this is also where our people need to kind of smarten up and realize, hey, if it's on the internet, it doesn't mean it's true.
Well, that's
unfortunately, we're dealing with
we have the internet,
not terribly
we have social
educated populace.
We have social media, and we depend on it the way we do, and our population doesn't. It doesn't say much for our constituents. But when we have that out there, people are going to take advantage of it. But that's not the only thing they did. I mean, the FBI reports that they were hacking into voter registration systems. That's not something. Why do you make that noise?
This is what they actually did. When they say they're trying to hack, they sent out phishing emails, just like they send out phishing emails to everybody in every bank, every office, everything, trying to get people's passwords. So yeah, did they try to get passwords?
Why are you defending the Russians on this? I don't understand.
No, there's no defense. It's just a matter of did they actually or could they actually have done anything that would have affected anything.
Why is that okay?
I'm not saying it's okay, but I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Why is that not a big deal that the Russians are trying to influence our elections? Is it because your candidate won?
No, it's because
I can tell
we
you
do
right
this exact same thing all over the world.
I don't think you have any proof of that.
We don't need proof that we don't have proof that the CIA is torturing people, but I'm sure they're doing it.
Well, okay, so you're going to justify this by saying that the CIA tortures people.
No, I'm saying that the United States of America has been meddling in other countries' elections and foreign affairs
I think they
forever.
have. I think they have.
And we continue
and
to
I
do
don't
so.
think that they do. And we can't certainly accept it as being part of what we just have to live with now.
But we shouldn't be surprised
Russians trying to
when
hack
others
into
do that to us.
No, but there has to be consequences. Does anybody out there who's listening agree that there has to be consequences for meddling in our elections? I mean, I can tell you right now, if Hillary Clinton would have won that election and all this information would have come out, the first person that would have screamed foul would have been Donald Trump. Because he was already screaming foul about the rigged elections anyway. Mm-hmm. So then he won, and he was like, holy shit, I won. I didn't expect to win this election. And you could see his face when he won, oh my God, now I got to govern. And he struggled.
I'm not going to agree with that one.
He struggled to govern because he wasn't ready. And he just doesn't have any experience in governing. But I think it's something that he could learn. It's most presidents say that being president is like riding a tiger. It takes a while, and you're going to get knocked off, and it's almost feels like it's impossible sometimes. But I think he can learn how to do it. But it wasn't something that he went into knowing. But between the reports of the hacking And the federal investigators who came out and said that they were hacking, trying to find the soft targets that you're saying, they're getting into the database for the registry systems to try to find targets to go to try to sway those voters. It's the same type of thing that we do in the field when we're trying to get votes. We locate voters.
Yeah.
And then once we locate those voters, we try to win them over in one way, shape, or form. So really, and you're not going to agree with this, but Donald Trump had a field operation based out of Russia.
Bernie, as well as Donald Trump. So this happened way before.
Trump got in I agree. So. I think they got involved too because they wanted to muddy the waters.
They
thought that Hillary Clinton had this whole thing wrapped up, and they wanted to muddy the waters for her, and they did. And the question is, why didn't the Russians want Hillary Clinton to be president?
Because they don't like her either. They hate her as much as most Americans.
They do. Why though?
It's obvious. I don't even think it needs to be described. It's just who she is.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe it's because she was going to be a little tougher on him than Donald Trump's being.
No.
Why has Donald Trump not renewed the sanctions that Congress passed to approve to renew the sanctions on the Russians that we'd had passed before his presidency? Why is he taking it easy on them, knowing? And at first, he said that none of this happened. That it could have been a fat guy and a 400-pound guy in his bedroom or something, in his mom's house basement or something.
Could
like
have
that. No, it's not. In fact, he's now saying that it did happen, and shame on them. And now he's saying that he's being tough on them because of an attack that took place in Syria in which mercenaries were killed, some of which were Russians. So now he's saying that he's being tougher on the Russians than his predecessor was.
No matter what, though, we still have to play in the same sandbox as the Russians. So it never does any good to say, this is not North Korea where we can just totally do whatever, or Iran. Russia is such a superpower that we have to be able to find a way to work with them. I mean, because we're going to run into Russia all over the world. It's in Syria, they're in Iran, they're in China, they're in, wherever we are, they're there as well. And so if we just take a completely hostile approach to them,
these aren't the Republicans of past, man. Remember when Ronald Reagan was president and the Soviet Union tried to bully the United States, and Ronald Reagan said, "Tear down this wall." He called them the evil empire.
Yeah.
He had an arms race with them, and he ramped everything up, and his rhetoric was top notch. And this guy was an actor, man, and he could really lay it on. He was the nicest guy. But you knew, man, when it got down to it, he wasn't taking any shit from the Russians. And now it's we gotta play in the same sandbox.
Our country is a different place,
we are. You talk about the pussification of America.
Listen,
I think that's what's happening in our diplomacy and our foreign affairs, because, man, you can't allow a country to just get by with this, and there's got to be a reason. Right now, the U.S. has indicted 13 Russians, which I know you think is no big deal.
13 dudes in their basements in Russia. 13
Russians
who are drinking Diet Mountain Dew.
Who the report says tied directly to Putin. Mm-hmm. And then we have three Americans indicted, including Michael Flynn, Trump's national security advisor, who lied about the Russians during and after the campaign, even was talking to them at the actual inauguration ceremony was found. Flynn pleaded guilty to a single felony count of making false, fictitious, and fraudulent statements to the FBI about his conversations with Russians and has agreed to cooperate. George Papadopoulos, another advisor to the president, indicted, arrested at the Dulles airport, and is now cooperating with Mueller, has pleaded guilty to one felony count of making false statements to FBI agents relating to the contacts he had with Russian agents.
Which nothing has actually been linked to Trump yet.
I noticed that last word that you said was yet. Independent actors who were close advisors to the president. Paul Manafort, who was indicted with a new charge today.
He was only a part of the campaign for about 2 minutes.
He was the campaign chairman.
And he was fired like 2 days later.
He was not 2 days. He was a very big part of the campaign.
3 weeks.
He was the campaign chairman. He wasn't. He didn't empty the trash cans at the Largo office.
Yeah, this happened before.
He was the campaign chairman.
His meetings with this all happened before the campaign.
He was indicted on a dozen charges of fraud, conspiracy, and money laundering as a lobbyist in Ukraine, which he did not even disclose like he's supposed to.
He bamboozled Mr. Trump to get on this. Yeah, he hid this. It was like altering the resume.
His new charges, you have to wonder, are under seal for what?
Yeah, he's a bad dude.
Why are they under seal?
They made the administration made a mistake by hiring him as the campaign manager.
Well, Mueller had to be appointed to the new independent counsel to investigate this because Attorney General Jeff Sessions, had to recuse himself because he lied at a committee hearing meeting in the Senate about his, his ties with Russia.
Forgot. It was about a meeting.
Oh, how convenient.
It was about
a
2-minute meeting at a freaking conference or something, and they passed each other in the hallway, and they said, hey, what's happening?
That was the meeting.
Not much.
That was the meeting.
Yeah, that was pretty much the meeting.
You're such an apologist for these guys, man.
Well, let's hear some facts about what actually transpired at this meeting.
They did have facts, and he went back and apologized and said, well, I didn't remember having them meetings.
Because it lasted like 30 seconds. It's like your sex life, you know? My bad.
Oh, sex life. I don't think I'd be talking about sex lives if I were Dan. All right? I don't think that's...
listen. Don't you worry about it.
I don't. Trust me, I really don't. But I think that we can't just let this go under the wayside and say, oh well, it's going to happen. I mean, the Secretary of State said the other day, well, you know, are we going to be tougher on it next time? You know, I don't know. I mean, you know, if they want to do it, they're going to do it.
The Russians spy on us all the time. We spy on them.
Well,
we have treaties.
But if we catch them,
no, we have treaties that say it's okay. Like we have treaties that say we are not going. We know that you're up there flying overhead, and we're going to allow it.
I just don't know why all of a sudden you guys are so Russia friendly when for so long they were the enemy. And they continue to be the enemy. They continue to try to influence our elections. But when the outcome comes out the way that you wanted it, the way that Putin wanted it, because he didn't want somebody that was going to be tough on him, then guess what? Now it's okay. You know, are we Americans first or are we Republicans first, man? And honestly, like if we can't agree that outside meddling in our own elections are out of bounds, then we have a problem. Because we don't even want people immigrating to this country.
We have to stop as well. So. If we're gonna now,
I'm all for it. Let's stop meddling in elections. Why? When did I ever agree to that? When did I ever vote for that?
I never said you did. I'm just saying that it's part of the U.S. history. We shouldn't be surprised if other countries do it to us.
I think that I think you have somewhat of a point there. It's at least the only point that you've made that makes any sense, which is that we shouldn't meddle in other people's elections. No, we shouldn't. And other countries probably say, "Ah, you had that coming, didn't you?" And yeah, okay, that's fine, but we can't let it happen again, and we can't tolerate it. And if I was another country, I wouldn't tolerate it. If the U.S. tried to meddle in our elections, I wouldn't want to tolerate that either.
Well, they'll have to shut down Facebook.
Yeah, well, I'm glad your guy won. At least that way you can think it's okay for the Russians to put their hand in our business and shift the pendulum around the way that they want to. Because next time it might not be your favorite candidate that gets picked by the Russians. And next time you might not be so willing to appease it.
No, there's no appeasing. There's just the pragmatic approach that we have to deal with Russia. We can't just hit them with a stick all the time. So,
well, I always believe in walk tall. Was it carry a big stick, be silent? Was Roosevelt's quote. But I think this president, he just does a lot of talking. But he's not doing much of backing.
It's a very important part of the job, talking.
It is, and he's not very good at it.
Well, he does a lot of it.
He does a lot of typing.
And he does a lot of tweeting. He's a tweeter.
He is a tweeter.
He's like a millennial.
He's one of the tweeterest presidents we ever had.
He's a millennial with a hairpiece. That's all.
And when you speak about the social media, another small point here that I read in this report was that Professor Philip Howard at the University of Oxford. Philip Howard of the University of Oxford found that 1/2 of all news on Twitter directed at the state of Michigan prior to the election was junk or fake. Propaganda targeted the alt-right movement, the right wing, the fascist groups. Watch findings cited Russia propaganda that exacerbated criticism of Clinton and support of Trump via social media, internet trolls, botnets, and website denigrating Clinton.
So, pretty much the same thing as the alt-right was doing anyway. So they just had a couple more people doing it.
They pushed it. They pushed it over, man. They pushed it over the edge.
Honestly, I'm not sure that the Russians were doing anything more than what some of these other right wingers were doing. So
the Russians have no right to meddle in our elections. And,
who says?
I don't know. That doesn't sound very patriotic to me.
I'm going to meddle in.
An American.
We're meddling in judicial elections right now.
We're not meddling. We're players. We were hired to do a job, and that's what we're doing.
Well, these guys were hired to do a job
by Trump.
No, not by Trump.
Yes.
No.
By Trump.
By
Manafort, by Trump, by Papadopoulos,
by their
Michael
internet
Flynn.
girlfriends.
Hey, don't you worry about those sanctions, baby.
In China.
We're gonna get you off them sanctions, baby. You just help us out, and you ain't got to worry about nothing. Your economy's gonna get right back on board because we're gonna lift those economically crippling sanctions that Obama put in order.
If anybody wanted to know what it looks like to see someone talking out of their butthole, you got Chris's camera on live.
Yeah, well, I am not a Russian.
With those last few statements, not his whole argument, but those last couple words.
Call me...
Asshat.
Call me McCarthy, because I think you're red. I think you're red as they come, and you're Russian anyway. So I'm especially.
But see here,
skeptical
it's not
of you.
really Russia. It's somewhere in the Polish-Russian area. So the Russians actually destroyed my family's bloodline out there. So I don't really have any love as you do for the athletes from Russia in the Olympics.
Yeah. What about the guy who was
the curler,
doping for curling?
Yeah. See.
Yeah, man, that's got to be a tough day when you get kicked out of curling for steroids. What a waste of steroids.
Performance-enhancing drugs. It might have been Adderall.
You got to get pretty ramped up to push that rock.
Focused.
All right. Well, we're at our 1 hour mark. I guess we kept it a little more civil
quick,
this week.
Let's. We one of our listeners, since our listener did want us to talk a little bit about the shooting stuff. Last week we had a lot of disagreement, and so maybe there were a couple things that I think we both agreed on. As far as some of the things that they might be able. Again, I don't know whether it will actually help or not. But one of the thoughts that that we both agreed on was making at least assault rifles a 21 and up. That you have to. So an assault rifle is a semi-automatic weapon. All other semi-automatic, whether it's a handgun or not, are 21 up in the state of Florida at least. I'm okay with a bolt action, which is a single. You actually have to pull the bolt back each time you fire. If some 18-year-old wants to buy that, I'm okay with that. Most of those only hold 3 to 5 rounds anyway, and so, which is a hunting rifle.
Well, yeah, so, I agree, and I don't think that an AR-15 is a hunting rifle.
No, it's not.
And I don't have any problem with people hunting. I think it speaks huge volumes when we hear things like we heard last night at the town hall that Marco Rubio was saying some of the things that you're saying, that, hey, we're willing to concede a couple of things. But that just hasn't been the attitude of the NRA, and they're the ones that's been controlling the argument from the right side. And so I give kudos to Marco Rubio for conceding a little bit, also standing his ground and showing up, especially last night, because there were 7,000 people that wanted his head. And he stood up there and he took it like a man, which our governor didn't and many other representatives didn't. But I got to give him credit. He stood up there and he knew the crowd was going to be hostile and emotional, and he did it anyway. So I think if we make these a few little changes, it speaks volumes that our government is at least willing to listen to the people and go against the NRA for once, because it just looks so bad when they're paying so much money to these politicians and they won't cross them. So
it's still, in my opinion, or I still have doubts or serious doubts whether this will have any meaningful effect.
Sure.
We can pass this, and I don't know that we're going to have any less school shootings. To me, probably the only thing that, we can do outside of taking all the guns is going to be more, is preventing it from happening at the actual schools. And that, unfortunately, that means hardening schools and training people. But even when you're doing that, you're not eliminating the problem. You're more or less just trying to limit the damage. And
trying to put a Band-Aid on a much bigger wound.
You're hoping that instead of 17 people, maybe you can limit the damage to 2 people getting shot or something.
Yeah, that sounds bad, but at the same time, that's great. I mean, if you say 15 lives in one incident, that's great. A guy can come in there with a knife and kill a couple of people.
I just mean if it's more hardened, because people are still going to have guns. They're still going to bring guns, because we're not talking about getting rid of the guns. So they're still going to be there. It's
just like murder laws don't get rid of all murders, but we kind of start to try to control it. They said we probably couldn't control smoking 20 years ago, and that there was nothing that we could do about smoking. But if you've noticed in the last 10, 15 years, it started to curb. And it's just because of mass campaigns.
We need to do a show on. I don't understand how so many young people still smoke.
Yeah,
But,
I don't either. They're addicted. Families get them started, and companies target them.
But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to touch on. So we did have some common ground. We've talked about this more, and as more stuff comes out, we'll try to bring it up occasionally here and there. So.
And everybody can have common ground, man. If I can do it and Dan can do it, we can all do it. So talk to people, man. Try to stay calm,
and don't just make comments on Facebook.
And if it gets heated. If it gets heated sometimes, just take a couple seconds and then try to talk about it later, because that's what we need. We need to have this conversation. And things are going to get emotional, but sometimes you just have to take a second, count to 10, and then try to reason with people. If you can't reason with them at the end of the day, you have to move on, talk to the next person. But it's got to be talked about, and we can't accept it. But we just have to find that balance. But, hey, thanks for listening today. We're at 1 hour and 5 minutes. It's been fun. We'll probably edit it down. Thanks to everyone who's been on here making comments. We appreciate it. And
we'll talk to you guys next week, I guess,
everybody has a good week. Come out tonight. Big Trophy Trivia at Caledonia Brewing in Dunedin at 8 o'clock. We're doing music trivia. We hope to see you there.
Last thing, next week is our kickoff campaign or kickoff party for the campaign at Caledonia.
So, 2 Caledonia plugs. Come out to the event tonight and then come out next week and see Dave, meet Dave. He's a great candidate for Circuit Court Judge, and he'd love to see you to come out. Everybody's welcome. We'll have some finger foods and some good selection of beer. We'll talk to you soon.
Peace.